Life in prison with the possibility of parole. That's the sentence handed down today for former Clark County Public Administrator Robert Tellis. Tellis was found guilty of murdering Las Vegas Review journalist Jeff Gehrman nearly 2 years ago. Gehrman had written a series of articles that shed light on the hostile work environment under Tellis's leadership. The long-awaited trial ended in a guilty verdict read at noon today. Fox 5's Victoria Saha has been covering every moment. She joins us in studio now with the emotional moments in court today.
There were 13 days of trial, 3 days to reach a verdict, but 2 years worth of heartache for two families since Jeff Gehrman was found stabbed to death outside his home. A guilty verdict today doesn't mean this story is over.
We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Robert Tellis, as follows. Murder with use of a deadly weapon, victim 60 years of age or older. Guilty of first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon.
Robert Tellis, now a convicted murderer. A murderer who also has the title of a husband, father, and son.
Robert really is a great father, and he's a good husband. I would love at some point to give my children the chance to have their father back.
I ask you to please, I accept the verdict. And if you could please give my son a chance of parole. Family is still very young, and I would like for him to someday be back with them again, please. Thank you.
But Tellis also took the life of a brother, uncle, and fierce reporter Jeff Gehrman.
I never imagined that Jeff himself would have become a national headline news story for his murder by a cold-blooded elected city official in broad daylight.
It's been very stressful over the past couple of years. I wouldn't want anybody to go through this. It was devastating to the family. It really was. We loved him, and he loved us.
Two families, two different heartbreaks. Taking the stand in the penalty phase of this trial before the jury decided Tellis should spend life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. This guilty verdict coming in just days before we mark 2 years since Gehrman's murder.
It's going to take a long time, I'm sure, for us to get past this, but we're doing our best, and we miss him a lot.
His death is something that still haunts his family, but in a way, they understand why the investigative journalist wanted to tell stories that matter, even though it may have killed him.
I remember asking Jeff why he chose to stay here and not be at other major newspapers who frequently recruited him. He said, "Jill, this is Las Vegas, this is Sin City. This is where I need to be."
The jury had to go into that penalty phase right after they convicted Tellis of murder. They had the option to send him behind bars for the rest of his life, but they instead are recommending he has the possibility of getting parole after serving 20 years of his sentence. He'll be sentenced officially October 16th.
And we heard from lawyers on both sides for the first time outside of the courtroom after that verdict came down. Take a listen.
They were being thoughtful. They were being courteous to both sides. They were giving both sides a fair shake, and they went through the evidence, and they ultimately came to their conclusion.
Mr. Tellis maintains his innocence. However, I'm certain that he is going to pursue an appeal.
Gehrman's employer, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, released this statement following the verdict. It says, in part, quote, "Jeff was killed for doing the kind of work in which he took great pride. His reporting held an elected official accountable for bad behavior and empowered voters to choose someone else for the job." Let's also remember that the community has lost much more than a trusted journalist. Jeff was a good man who left behind a family who loved him and friends who cherished him. His murder remains an outrage. He is missed.